Hi everyone, I'm Shelley and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another question the narrative video, and today's topic is mermaids, sirens, and fish gods. Now, most of you know that I have an affinity for mythological creatures. I find them fascinating, hence my last video, which was about trolls. This one actually I was inspired by because I was reading a book to my youngest daughter about mermaids. So this is an actual page from the book that I was reading to her. And the book, if you wanted to know, is called Mermaids Most Amazing. And it's a book that's geared towards children. But when I took a look at as you can see, it's only on page 7, I saw this and I was thinking, wow, that looks really familiar. And then my very perceptive 9-year-old said to me, Mom, that's the Starbucks mermaid. And I said, What? And she said, Yeah, that's the Starbucks mermaid. And I don't buy Starbucks, so I don't even know how she knows this other than just like seeing it in passing. But sure enough, she was right. Here is the Starbucks logo. And as you can see, let me see. Yeah, it's a pretty close fit. But another thing that I noticed was just the expansion of how far around the world these mermaid legends are. You know, a lot of times we think of these civilizations as being, just not able to travel, not able to go anywhere. But I think that we've seen with this series that I've been doing that a lot of things other than mermaids have just been seen all over the world. And you have to ask yourself, how and why? Were these things based on actual creatures, or was there actually much more communication between the civilizations than what we're told, or could it even have been a bit of both? So the one specifically shown in the Starbucks logo is a siren. It is not just a mermaid, and it is a double-tailed siren like the one that I showed you that was in my daughter's book. So let's just look at what a siren is in case you don't know, because yes, it is a type of mermaid. But a siren in Greek mythology, a creature half bird, this says bird, but actually they're often types of mermaids, so that's interesting, who lured sailors to destruction by the sweetness of her song. So that's what sirens are known for. They are known for being in the sea. They sing these beautiful songs and they lure sailors to their deaths. So I think it's pretty interesting that Starbucks decided to use that as their logo. I'm not sure if that was the reasoning that they did it. I don't know. But anyway, I mentioned to my friend about how my daughter had noticed the Starbucks logo right away, and then she sent me this. These are different photos of double fish-tailed, you could call them mermaids, sirens, fish gods, whatever, from all over the world. So the double fish-tailed mermaid is typically thought of as just being European. But right here we can see one, Olokun, the goddess of death. This is actually from West Africa. So it is not something that is just in Europe and no other place. There are actually stories of mermaids and sirens and fish gods all over the world. And so this is reminiscent of, again, of the stories of giants and how all the civilizations have histories of floods, like Noah's flood. There are stories of fallen angel type creatures. There are stories of the Nakash that I talked about in another video. There are Sasquatch stories all over the world. What else am I missing? I actually even got some photos that I could remember. And of course, I'm not going off of them. Okay, so we have stories of trolls that are all over the world. And that's what I talked about in my last video. There are flood legends all over the world. So it's not just something that is confined to only one civilization. And not even mythologically, but actually in physicality, there are pyramids all over the world from these civilizations that supposedly had no contact with one another. This one, interestingly, is said to be in Antarctica. Besides that, there are pyramids that are found underwater. And then, of course, there are the Egyptian pyramids that everyone knows about, and most people know about the ones in the the Mayan pyramids. But again, it's something that is found all over. There are even thought to be pyramids in North America, in Georgia, that has actually been covered with vegetation. And I talked about that in another video because is he an archaeologist? Or is he a geologist? I don't remember. But Scott Wolter, he was actually forbidden from exploring a certain area. So he had to fly over it and get LiDAR in order to look down and see what was actually there, because it is thought that there was a pyramid, which many people believe to be Mayan. I don't know if that's what it was, actually in Georgia. So again, we just have more evidence of things that we are told are combined to certain localities. They're worldwide. They're not just in certain areas. Even architecture. We've talked about this before. There are the same types of buildings from all over the world from hundreds of years ago. We're told hundreds of years ago. We don't know actually how old they are. But if you look here, we have Japan. We have buildings in Taiwan, Argentina, Cuba, Chile, Paraguay, the US, Russia, Iran, Poland, Vietnam, Pakistan, India, South Africa, Thailand, Turkey, Sri Lanka, Germany, Ukraine, China, New Zealand, Singapore, Sweden. There's a lot more than I thought there was. Indonesia, Kenya, Egypt, Brazil, Australia, Canada, and the Philippines. So, and as you can see, just from looking, I'll just click on a couple of them. So this is one from the Philippines. The same types of buildings can be found all over, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, that's because of British colonization. Oh, and I just lost it. Let me try to find it again. Okay, so this one is from Japan. But anyway, so a lot of these places where I'm showing you these buildings from, they were not even colonized. So that theory, while it might work for some of the countries that have these buildings, it does not work for all of that. And here we have, this one's in Taiwan. Go to Argentina. And I'm just clicking on random buildings, but as you can see, they're all extremely similar, and they're in areas that you wouldn't expect them to be. Yes, nowadays Japan is very modernized, but these are not modern buildings. These are very old buildings, but if you look at them, this looks like it could be a street in the old United States, yet it is in Japan. And that is not the picture that we're given of these places. So that is just something else that I think we have more commonality around the world than what we've been told. So going back to the mermaids, it really, to me, is something else that, yeah, there's something more to the story. I found this article, 9 Mermaid Legends from Around the World, and it really does go to show how they are to be found everywhere. Here we have one in Japan called the Ningyo. It's a giant fish with a human face, vastly different than the Western version of a beautiful mermaid. This monster, found in Japanese folklore, is described as a giant fish with a human face and a monkey's mouth, and sometimes even horns and fangs. So I'm just going to click on that, and I think this one. And that is their depiction of the Ningyo. So then we also have, this one might be a little bit more known, the Scotland and Orkney Islands have one called the Selkie. Selkies are gentle creatures who live their lives as seals while in the water and shed their skin. And I actually read a tale about this to my children. We were reading Irish folklore, a book on Irish folklore, and this was one of them. And they shed their skin to become human on land, but they're equated with mermaids. In Africa, there is the Mami Wata. Now, I showed you the other one from the picture that I had of the double-tailed god, and that is actually, again, from West Africa, Olokun, the goddess of death. But here we also have one named Mami Wata, and it made its way, stories of the Mami Wata made its way to the Americas during the slave trade, we're told. Let's see. Then in Brazil, the Lady of the Waters. In New Zealand, we have the Maracaiho. I'm probably butchering all of these names, but you get the idea. In Ireland, there is the Marrow. And a magical cap called a Kohuline Druith enables Meros to live under the water. Female Meros with their long green hair are similar to traditional sirens, the beautiful half-human fish of mythology. So if you remember when I talked about it earlier, um, it was said to be a half bird. So that's why I'm getting confused here, but it is half human fish. Anyway, male Meros, however, are considered hideous and frightening, more fish than man, and they're cruel. So cruel that Mero women were said to often have relationships with human men. So we also have some in Russia called the Rusalka, and in Norway are the Finnfolk. And they are probably the least like a traditional version of a mermaid. Finnfolk are shapeshifters of the sea, considered nomads who can alternate between living on land and at their ancestral home. Finnfolk tend to have an antagonistic relationship with humans. They often abduct humans for their spouses, making them more servant than partner. So I also discovered in my daughter's book that there have actually been newspaper articles where supposedly they say that they found mermaids. And of course, it was always long ago because stories like this are shunned nowadays and you won't hear anything about this. But here I have one, and it's the Canton Advocate, and it was written on December 15th, 1881, The Mermaid of New Orleans. And it says, a New Orleans correspondent of the Louisville Courier-Journal writes, the arrival of a veritable mermaid in this port is the sensation of the day. This semi-mortal, semi-finny being arrived on the steamship Netley Abbey, Captain Horn from Panama a few days since. It was captured by a native fisherman in the Bay of Aspinwall about 2 months since during one of the violent storms to which that beautiful bay is at times exposed. Captain Hone came in possession of it through Mr. Grotch, the superintendent of the Boston Ice Company at Panama, and has courteously exhibited it to many scientists and others since its arrival. This wonder of the deep is in a fine state of preservation. The head and body of a woman are very plainly and distinctly marked. The features of the face, eyes, nose, mouth, teeth, arms, breast, and hair are those of a human being. The hair on its head is of a pale silky blonde, several inches in length. The arms terminate in claws closely resembling an eagle's talons instead of fingers with nails. From the waist up, the resemblance to a woman is perfect, and from the waist down, the body is exactly the same as the ordinary mullet of our waters, with its scales, fins, and tail perfect. Many old fishermen and amateur anglers who have seen it pronounce it unlike any fish they have ever seen. Scientists and savants alike are all at sea respecting it, and say that if the mermaid be indeed a fabulous creature, mermaid or not, Captain Horn prizes it very highly. It looks like it was cut off. Yeah, I think. Wait, maybe I can go down. Oh, I can. They cannot class this strange comer from the blue waters. Mermaid or not, Captain Horn, it is Horn, I think I said home earlier, prizes it very highly. It is said that Adam Forepaugh, now in the city, has offered $1,000 for it, wishing it for his menagerie, which the offer was declined. Captain Horn will sail for Liverpool in a few days and hopes to find a better market in London for it. As the first American mermaid ever seen in Europe, it may command more than its weight in gold. And then next, we have in 1830, Mermaid near Benbecula, the Outer Hebrides, Scotland. And this is just a sighting report. So it tells you that the year was 1830. It happened in the morning. Entity type, animal, in the form of a woman in miniature. And the description, the upper part of the creature was about the size of a well-fed child of 3 or 4 years of age with abnormally developed breasts. The hair was long, dark, and glossy, while the skin was white, soft, and tender. The lower part of the body was like a salmon, but without scales. It was reportedly buried near the sea. And there's a Hynek classification for it. Excuse me. It says so the summary of the sighting is a group of crofters in an island were cutting seaweed when one of them stumbled across an animal in the form of a woman in miniature on the shore. The men in the party tried and failed to capture her, but as she tried to swim to safety, a boy hurled a stone that struck her in the back. 2 days later, her dead body washed up 2 miles from where she had been seen, and a careful examination was made of it. So they actually had the carcass. The upper part of the creature was about the size of a well-fed child, and this is what it just read before. So I'll just actually it's just everything else. And then it says it was reportedly buried near the sea. And then we have this one here, and this is actually in this Dutch. I'm not sure. I think it might be in Dutch, but it was in 1403. And so this is the actual newspaper article and illustration about this. And there was a description of it earlier. Oh, here we go. The Mermaid of Edam, 1403, of a wild sea woman, the one who was caught in the Permer Lake. So there we have another one. So really interesting stuff. So this, I believe, is a photo of the one that was on display, I think Barnum Brothers maybe, and it was discovered to be a fake, which, is it's to be expected. And I believe they said that there was like a monkey skull sewn onto something or other else. But I just thought it was interesting for you to look at while I read this story from my daughter's book, which is supposedly true. In 1833, 6 fishermen fishing off the Scottish island of Yell hauled a strange mermaid into their boat. Her appearance was recorded in detail in a book called The History of Whales and Seals. She was about 1 meter long, and her body ended in a dogfish tail. Her face and neck were like a monkey's, which actually that's pretty interesting considering that they claim that a monkey's head was sewn onto this one, creating a hoax. So, Anyway, her face and neck were like a monkey's, and her head was covered in bristles that could stand up straight and then lie down flat like a cockatoo's crest. I'm like looking at this skull here, and that certainly looks like a crest to me. Wow, it's like divine providence that I decided to land on this picture while I'm reading this story. The creature had no gills, fins, or webbed fingers, nor did she have scales or hair on her body. Well, not on the body, but this part there's scales. She did not struggle or bite, but lay in the boat with her arms folded, moaning softly. The fishermen watched her closely for 3 hours. Finally, afraid she might die, they put her back in the water. In an instant, the mermaid dived straight down, out of sight. And there are so many really interesting stories in this book. I'll leave a link to it in the description if I can find it somewhere in case any of you would want to look at it. There are also lots of stories of fish gods in ancient religions, and actually, Dagon is one of the false gods that is spoken about being worshipped in the Old Testament. And here is a depiction of Dagon, who is, well, he's a merman. Another name for him is, and I never actually realized it before, was Oannes. I'm not sure if I said that right. Oannes is a fish god. This is a Babylonian god. And as I was scrolling through, I happened to notice that, sure enough, it's the same depiction as of Dagon. And then I found here that apparently, yes, they are the same one. So, what am I getting to with all of this? I don't know, to be quite honest. I'm just I'm just finding more and more puzzle pieces every day, of all of the things that we're told are just legends, and they're just, they're only one tribe, one culture that is supposedly coming up with this stuff, when no, that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is the same stories of the same types of creatures of all different kinds, same structures being built all over the world, same types of buildings all over the world, same types of legends all over the world. What do we make of that? And I think that it's a question that we all need to think about. Now, one thing that I've thought about is we have talked about before the book of Enoch, and it does say that the watchers sinned against the animals. And so a lot of scholars believe that that means that they actually did some sort of DNA splicing and created hybrid animals. Could this be something from that time? I don't know. It's certainly a possibility. And as you know, I don't ever pretend to have all the answers. I just like to ask questions, look at stuff, and have a good time doing it. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.